Have you ever looked at someone successful and thought, they were probably born with advantages I never had? A wealthy family, powerful connections, the perfect opportunity. It is one of the oldest beliefs in human history, that greatness belongs to the fortunate, that kings are born to rule, that empires are built by people who begin life with everything. History can certainly make it seem that way. We remember the crowns, the palaces, the victories, the statues carved in stone. But rarely do we stop and ask a much more important question. Where did these people actually begin? The answer is often surprising. Some of history's greatest leaders were not born into wealth. They were born into poverty. Some were raised without powerful families. Some were rejected by their own people. One was born the son of a humble family. Another grew up in a small wooden cabin. One was born into a society that denied him even the most basic dignity. And one began life as a slave. They came from different centuries, different civilizations, different cultures, yet they all shared one thing. They refused to let their beginnings decide their future. Today, we'll journey across continents and thousands of years, following the lives of 5 remarkable individuals who rose from almost nothing to leave an unforgettable mark on history. And our first story begins in a time when the Roman Empire stood on the edge of collapse, where an ordinary young man, born far from the halls of power, would one day become the emperor who saved it. During the 3rd century AD, the Roman Empire was facing one of the darkest periods in its history. Emperors were rising and falling with alarming speed. Civil wars weakened the government. Foreign armies attacked the frontiers. Inflation drove the economy toward collapse. Many believed Rome's greatest days were over. Far from the imperial palaces, a boy named Diocles was born into a family of humble means, along the eastern shores of the Adriatic Sea. Nothing about his early life suggested he would one day rule the Roman world. Unlike sons of noble families, Diocles inherited no wealth, no powerful name, and no political influence. The Roman army became his opportunity. Through discipline, courage, and years of service, he steadily climbed the ranks, earning the respect of both soldiers and commanders. Then, in 284 AD, everything changed. Following the death of Emperor Nemirian, the Eastern army proclaimed Diocles as the new emperor. He adopted the name Diocletian. But wearing the imperial crown did not solve Rome's problems. The empire was simply too vast and too unstable for one man to govern alone. Rather than ruling as emperors before him had, Diocletian transformed the entire system. He reorganized the government, strengthened the army, reformed taxation, and introduced the tetrarchy, dividing responsibility among 4 rulers to better defend the empire. Not every reform succeeded, but together they gave Rome stability after decades of chaos. A young man who had begun life with almost nothing had become one of the greatest rulers in Roman history. Yet his journey was only the beginning. Centuries later, another boy would lose almost everything before building an empire unlike the world had ever seen. Around 1162 AD, on the vast grasslands of Mongolia, a boy named Temujin was born into a tribal family. His father was a respected chieftain. But before Temujin reached adulthood, tragedy struck. His father was poisoned by a rival tribe. Almost overnight, everything changed. Without their leader, Temujin's family was abandoned by their own clan. They lost their protection. They lost their wealth. and they were left to survive alone on the unforgiving steppe. Food became scarce. Some days, the family survived by gathering wild plants, catching fish, and hunting small animals. Life became a daily struggle. But hardship shaped the young Temujin in unexpected ways. He learned that strength alone could not guarantee survival. Trust, loyalty, and determination mattered just as much. As he grew older, Temujin slowly gathered followers. Unlike many tribal leaders, he rewarded people for their ability rather than their family background. A shepherd could become a commander. A former enemy could become a trusted ally. One by one, rival tribes joined his cause, either through alliance or conquest. In 1206, the tribes of the Mongolian steppe gathered and proclaimed him Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. The abandoned boy, who had once struggled simply to find enough food for his family, now commanded a united nation. Soon, his armies would ride beyond the steppe and build the largest contiguous empire in human history. In 1809, in a small log cabin in the wilderness of Kentucky, a boy named Abraham Lincoln was born. His family was poor. They owned little land, and every day was filled with hard physical work. There were no grand schools nearby, no private tutors, no influential relatives waiting to open doors for him. Education was a rare luxury. Lincoln attended school for only a short time, receiving less than a year of formal education throughout his childhood. But he refused to let that define him. Whenever he could, he borrowed books from neighbors, reading by the light of a fireplace after long days of labor. History, law, science, literature. Every book became another teacher. As he grew older, Lincoln worked as a farm laborer, a rail splitter, a shopkeeper, and even a postmaster. His path was far from easy. He lost elections. His business failed. He faced disappointment again and again. Yet every setback strengthened his determination rather than weakening it. Slowly, he built a reputation as an honest lawyer and a thoughtful speaker. People admired not his wealth, but his character. In 1860, the poor boy from a log cabin achieved what once seemed impossible. He was elected the 16th President of the United States. When the nation descended into civil war, Lincoln guided it through its darkest chapter and led the fight to end slavery. His journey proved that education, perseverance, and integrity could carry an ordinary person to extraordinary heights. Yet across the world, another child faced obstacles even greater than poverty. A society that denied him dignity simply because of the family into which he was born. In 1891, in the military town of Mo, in central India, a boy named Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar was born into a family that society considered untouchable. From the moment he entered the world, people judged him not by his abilities, but by his birth. As a child, Ambedkar was allowed to attend school, but he was rarely treated like the other students. He often sat separately from the class. He was not allowed to drink water unless someone from a higher caste poured it for him. If no one was willing to help, he simply went thirsty. For many children, such treatment would have destroyed hope. For Ambedkar, it strengthened his resolve. He believed that education was the most powerful weapon against injustice. He studied tirelessly, earning scholarships that allowed him to continue his education in India, and later at Columbia University in the United States, and the London School of Economics in Britain. Knowledge became the foundation of his life's work. Returning to India, Ambedkar devoted himself to fighting discrimination and demanding equal rights for millions who had long been denied dignity. Years later, when India achieved independence, he was chosen to chair the committee that drafted the Constitution of India. The boy who had once been denied something as simple as a drink of water helped write the laws of the world's largest democracy. His journey proved that the greatest barriers are not always walls or armies. Sometimes, they are the beliefs of society itself. And our final story begins with a man who lost not only his rights, but his freedom. Around the beginning of the 1st century BC, a man named Spartacus found himself living as a slave in the Roman Republic. The freedom he had once known was gone. His future no longer belonged to him. Because of his remarkable strength and fighting ability, he was taken to a gladiator school in Capua, where enslaved men were trained to fight for the entertainment of Roman crowds. To the spectators, the arena was a place of excitement. To the gladiators, it was a prison where every battle could be their last. But Spartacus refused to accept the life that had been forced upon him. In 73 BC, he and around 70 fellow gladiators escaped the school, armed themselves, and fled to the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. What began as a desperate bid for freedom quickly became something far greater. Thousands of enslaved people joined his cause. Under Spartacus' leadership, the rebels defeated one Roman army after another, forcing the Republic to send some of its finest commanders against them. For nearly 2 years, an enslaved gladiator kept the greatest power in the Mediterranean on edge. Although the rebellion was eventually crushed, Rome never forgot the man who had dared to challenge it. Spartacus never became a king. He never ruled an empire. Yet his name has survived for more than 2,000 years as a symbol of courage, resistance, and the unbreakable desire to be free. These 5 lives unfolded in different centuries, on different continents, and under very different circumstances. Yet together, they reveal one remarkable truth. History has always celebrated the people who stood at the top. The emperors, the kings, the conquerors, the presidents. But when we look closely at their lives, a different story begins to emerge. Diocletian was not born into royalty. He rose from a humble family to save a collapsing empire. Genghis Khan was abandoned as a child and struggled simply to survive, before uniting the Mongol tribes and building the largest contiguous empire in history. Abraham Lincoln grew up in poverty, with less than a year of formal education, yet became the leader who preserved the United States during its greatest crisis. B.R. Ambedkar entered a world that judged him from birth, but used education to help shape the constitution of the world's largest democracy. Spartacus began the story as a slave, yet inspired thousands to risk everything in pursuit of freedom. Their languages were different. Their cultures were different. Even the centuries they lived in were different. But none of them allowed their beginnings to decide their future. Their greatest strength was not wealth. It was perseverance. Not privilege, but determination. History remembers them not because life was fair to them. It remembers them because, when faced with hardship, they chose to move forward instead of surrendering. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson they leave behind. Your circumstances may shape where your journey begins, but they do not have to determine where it ends. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the lives of these remarkable leaders. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to subscribe, so we can continue uncovering the forgotten stories that shaped our world. Until next time, take care and keep your curiosity alive.